This is my personal learning journey for the course Service Learning and Community Engagement for the course number 870. When I registered the course, I did not know what does service learning mean, but as I read Booton and Clark's texts, and as I shared in the discussion forum, and as I listened to our visitors, John and Heather, I started to better understand what service learning and community engagement are. I work with the Open Door Society and I see many students having practicum with us, but never knew that it is part of service learning pedagogy. However, now I know. I worked in two schools that did not apply service learning. I believe if I go back to teaching, I will help the school shift to service learning pedagogy. I learned many about many service learning concepts, but the one that is most interesting to me is the concept of transformation. From here comes to my mind the difference between traditional service learning and critical service learning. Traditional service learning is the one that focuses on learning to serve and serving to learn. It doesn't focus on changing the student or changing the community. However, the critical service learning focuses on social change. It focuses on working to redistribute the power, and it also focuses on developing authentic relationships between the university, the school, or the college on one side and the community on the other side. Now I understand that, as Wooten outlines, there are many dichotomies within service learning. However, these dichotomies do not need to exclude service learning as a useful learning method. I saw that in service learning there is no balance in reciprocity. I always believe that the students are not professionals and do not have the skills to induce change in the community. But as our visitor Heather said, the benefits for the community come through longitudinal projects. I started to believe that there are rewards for connecting post secondary institutions to community issues. It is rewarding for both the students and the educational institution on one side and the community on the other side. I believed that uh, service learning can be institutionalized as any other discipline, but I learned from Bhutan that there are barriers to disciplining it, such as the political barrier and the cultural barrier, and others. I was also surprised when he said that service learning is pursuing a wrong revolution and that service learning will not change higher education, but higher education will change it. Another point that also surprised me is when Bhutan mentioned that service learning rejects the banking model of education. I used to think that this banking model is one of the best in Canada and the world. But I discovered that service learning rejects the model and it encourages the engagement of today's students with both academic and civic values. It was clear to me that service learning enhances student outcomes, fosters a more active citizenry, promotes a scholarship of engagement among teachers and institutions, supports a more equitable society, and reconnects colleges and universities with their local and regional communities. Now I can clearly identify the links between theory and practice of service learning. I worked for two schools as a teacher in schools that did not adopt service learning. If I become a principal of one of these schools, I will make sure to integrate service learning into the curriculum. This will be an opportunity for students to learn about environment and social issues in a real life context. A successful service learning project is more than just volunteering. It involves students applying knowledge and skills to make a difference in their community. There are many key considerations that contribute to successful service learning. One, meaningful service learning. So I will make sure that the service provided to the community addresses the community needs. Second, curriculum connection. There should be a distinction between community service and service learning. When I allow youth to engage in service learning, it should involve more than just, for example, serving food or cleaning up. I will make sure the students are prepared and ready to learn about community issues. I will make sure service learning will address and will be linked to academic subject matter being studied. Three, leadership opportunities. I will give students leadership opportunities and let them participate in almost all aspects of service learning projects. I will make sure they are team players who are able to work together with school leaders and community partners. I will make sure that they develop communication skills, work ethics, and how to use their resources wisely. Four, I will work to institutionalize service learning in the school. Five, it is important for me to approach service learning in the school from an anti-oppressive stance. Power relations and power balance are very important. Experiencing cognitive dissonance. My initial understanding of service learning was quite a narrow definition, focusing more on internship or co-op replacement. During the course, I used to think service learning is worthless because of many disadvantages. One of the disadvantages that made me think community engagement is worthless is the fact that neither the academy nor the community are monolithic cultural entities. There are subcultures within both. There are identifiable differences between academic and community cultures that can interfere with attempts to collaborate. What can happen in community university relationships is that people inadvertently break the rules of the other culture. This can lead to breakdown in the relationship. Another point is that I used to think that universities hold more power than communities they serve. I used to think that university having more power is just the natural order of things and is no cause for concern. I used to agree with those who believe that real or perceived power differentials can impair campus community relationships. But as I read about the PACE program, and the successful examples of Clark's book, I realized that there are advantages that can overcome the disadvantages of community engagement. Although community engagement can be time consuming, can create potential conflict and other challenges, yet these challenges may be overcome through the development of a comprehensive engagement plan that can lead to long term substantive solutions. One of the factors that affect the holistically focused reflection in a service learning programs is the political factor. And this is one of the factors that caused me some cognitive dissonance. The political factors set by those controlling higher education determine who is hired among teachers, what is taught in courses, mechanism of assessment, and the content of the courses delivered to students. If the majority of the institution is composed of Democrats, then everything in the institution will be affected by their ideology. In the end, the students will be forced to reflect in a way that fits that ideology, whether in class or in reflecting about their experiences in the field. Their voices will not be heard. What they write or say in their assignment will reflect the institution's and the teacher's ideology. Even the community serviced will be just subject to bias, and thus students' reflections will not cover those opposing that ideology. Therefore, voices of the members within the community will not be reflected in the students' reflection in the program. Thank you.